Hello and welcome to Slick Willy Fly, and today we're going to celebrate 300 subscribers. Thank you so much everyone for watching. So for today I broke out a really nice rum. It's actually a rum, it's not a whiskey. It's fantastic. Felt like celebrating 300 subscribers, a big deal. So what we're going to do, and again it'll be a giveaway, is we're going to do a Zonker Baitfish. We're going to do this fly right here. And this is an awesome fly. I use this when I'm just blind casting, low light conditions obviously. You can tie this in any color you want. It's basically two types of bucktail and a rabbit zonker. And I promise you, with the bucktail, the bucktail fibers are stiff enough that this really doesn't foul very much. It's an awesome fly. I tie it really sparse so it sinks good, and let's do it. Let's jump in on it. Alright, so because this is kind of a large fly, I've decided to try a new camera angle. So what I'm going to start with is 140 denier ultra in black. I've already put a little bit of lead thread on the hook. That's about 10 wraps or so, and I put a little bit of super glue on them just so that they would stay nice and firm right where, you know, in place. I don't want them to move. Now the placement of the lead is actually important. You saw that I didn't go all the way to the eye. I'm actually about 1/4 of an inch back from the eye. And the reason that I do that is I don't want this fly to jig. I want the fly to kind of like fall, if you get what I mean. I think you do. So the first material that I'm going to put on is SSS braid, and we don't need very much. And the only reason I'm going to use this, if you notice, this is so sparse that you kind of see the body a little. So I put a little bit of the diamond pearl braid on this hook, just so that it gives it more, I think, of a little bit more of a fishiness to it. So I'm just attaching this braid at the back of the hook, and really I'm only going to run it up maybe to where the lead thread ends. I'm going to go ahead and use my rotary function and carefully just touching turns. This is really purely aesthetics, and there's not really any reason to get too crazy with this. So this fly meets all my regular criteria. Very few materials, super easy to tie, and nothing's expensive here. So I don't mind casting this up into the trees, or, you know, in some vegetation. If I lose it, I lose it. Just tie another one. But it's a great fly, easy to tie in a lot of different colors, easy to tie in a lot of different sizes. And of course, like all my other big number flies, 100, 200, we're going to do a giveaway. So for 200, I had a winner from Portland, Oregon. His name was Kieran Lambert, and he got the 200 video fly. And we're gonna do the same. We're gonna, whoever subscribes or is a subscriber and leaves a good comment, we'll pick that person to take home the fly. So the first piece of material that I'm going to put on is some black deer hair. It's just regular deer hair black, nothing fancy here. And I just use it to cover up the hook, basically. Remember that I don't use a lot. A lot of times in fly tying, less is more. I do pull out all the little shorties like I always do. And then anything that's crazy long. And all I really want to do with this is cover up the hook. So once I establish my length, which is about right there, I can trim this a little, dropping hairs all over the place. Right, there's plenty here. You know, I really believe that when you have it trimmed and you have it neat, it's just so much easier to work with the materials. So I hold it nice and hard, a couple of loose wraps, making sure that I like the position. And then because it's deer hair and I don't want it to just go crazy, I'm going to give it a few extra loose wraps working up towards the eye of the hook. And once I feel like I've captured that pretty good, now I can go back and really crank down hard on this. And you notice I never let go of the deer hair. And there it is. It's exactly what I wanted it to look like. And all that does is basically covers up the hook a little. All right. So now we're going to go back to the top side of the hook. And now I'm going to go ahead and put on some flash. I'm going to start with Krystal flash. The Krystal flash that I'm going to use is black and silver. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool little blend. And I want it to be, oh, and you notice my Krystal flash is staggered. I want it to be somewhat long because this fly is going to be a little bit longer than my traditional flies that I like to make. And I promise you, I know it sounds crazy, but this fly does not have a tendency to foul. The deer hair that I'm going to be using is stiff enough that it just doesn't really foul. Or not very often anyway. So once I'm happy with that position, which I am, I want it to be basically right on top. I can crank on that. And then I don't cut off these little tags. I just fold them over and let them ride. Bend those in, tie them in, and I feel like by doing it this way, that flash becomes pretty bulletproof. Gotta be careful you don't grab your deer hair. Alright, now I'm gonna have a little bit of silver tinsel flash, and I have two long strands here. So I'm going to just fold them in half. Then I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them on my thread about as even as I can. That looks pretty even. And then I'm going to take these right on top. Lock those in. I'm telling you, this is such an easy fly to tie. And that's all the flash we need. You know, I've seen this fly. I go on social media and I've seen this fly tied with a lot of different materials. I've seen people use mink, seal fur, all kind of stuff. And I've never actually tried those materials, so I can't really say anything negative about them. But all I do know is that rabbit zonker, it just works really nice. And rabbit zonker is a very inexpensive material compared to some of those other materials that I was just describing. So it's hard for me to recommend going with a really expensive material. So now I have a piece of purple bucktail, which is quite long, and I don't really want it to be much longer than about that right there. So I'm just going to hold it and I'm going to trim it. Now for tying in this purple bucktail, I'm going to use a technique that I used in a previous video where I did not want my colors to blend, and I'll put a link to that video in this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a wrap just around the purple bucktail and now around everything. Another soft wrap around everything, and by doing it this way I really keep the purple on top and not blending at all with the black. I really like this black and purple color. You know, I don't know what it is about the black and purple, but it's very popular and it gets a lot of bites. I've seen a lot of places where they call this purple, this black and purple. I have a hard time bringing myself to call it purple. Sounds so silly to me. Okay, so that's on there nice. So the last material that we're going to put on this fly is the Zonker. Now this particular piece of Zonker here is all squiggly. This one that looks beautiful and nice and straight, it looks beautiful and it's nice and straight because I've already put this in water and dried it, and that's why it looks so beautiful. This one will also look beautiful when I'm done with it. What I've done is I've prepped it by cutting a little like point into it, which gives me a nice little tie-in spot. But the first thing I got to do is I got to determine my overall length, because this is obviously way too long. So I'm going to say about where my fingers are is where the skin is going to end, because if I do this correctly, like I'm going to show you, the fur will actually be a little bit longer than the skin. So what I need to do is I need to separate the fur. You can use a needle, you can use anything. It's hard to show you, but you just come in here and make sure you separate the fur best you can. And once you feel like you have it separated, then you can cut it carefully. And now what you end up with is the fur beyond the skin, just like that. So now we have our length, and now I could tie this in. Super, super simple fly. We're just going to put that right on top. Trying to get everything out of the way. And making sure before I crank down that it's sitting right where I want it. Looks like it is. And now I can crank down on this Zonker. And the last thing to do is put some eyes on this fly and make a little epoxy head. Which you don't really need to do. I promise you, put a little whip finish in right now and this fly will fish. Guaranteed. So that's the next step actually, is a little whip finish. Make sure that seats really good. That's the nice thing about this 140 deniers. You can really crank on that. Alright, so on this particular fly, I went with red eyes. But I think for the purpose of this fly, I'm going to do yellow eyes. And whoever wins, I'm going to let them choose. Do they want red eyes or yellow eyes? And for the eyes, I'm not going to go big. I'm going to use these, they're like 4mm, I believe. but they will have a lot of like, they're just gonna pop. I think they're gonna look great. So I use the hook as my guide. Sometimes they don't want to stick so good. Hopefully it's going to work better for me now. It's just a little temporary stick job. Just needed to stick long enough that I can get my UV resin going. Now, one thing that I will suggest is really just take a second and make sure that you like where the eyes are sitting. And once you do, and I do, and you get your UV resin going, it's gonna be great. And all I'm gonna do with the beginning here is I'm just gonna try and get a little bit of resin between the eyes, just to lock the eyes. I hope you can see this clearly and see that I'm really not using very much resin at all right now. So I just got it right between the eyes, letting gravity work a little bit here. And now I zap it, and now these eyes aren't going to move. So I wasn't in a rush before, but now I'm like really not in a rush. And those yellow eyes look awesome. So all I did here was I flipped it over, and basically we're repeating the process underneath. Making sure that these eyes are locked in. So yeah, the person who sends me a great comment, or maybe a picture, or maybe they're tying this fly or something, we're going to choose a winner, and we're going to send you the fly, and you'll get to choose whether you want the yellow eyes or the red eyes. These are 2.0 hooks, stainless steel hooks that I'm tying on. And so this fly is fine for inshore fishing, like what I like to do a lot. And it's equally good in like pike or muskie or any toothy critter, really. It's gonna be a great fly. So now what I've done now is I just put a drop on the eye itself, making sure that I work the resin off the edge of the eye. Because by doing that, this really does get tough. This fly will be able to absorb some serious strikes by doing it that way. Now we just let gravity kind of help us a little. I like to spin the fly. I like to spin the fly because by spinning the fly, the coating kind of like evens out. A little physics going on here. Feels like a little light right in there. Make sure that you get good coverage on your knot. And remember, you're not in any rush. Until you hit it with the lamp, this doesn't get hard. So if there's anything you don't like, just keep working it until you get to the head that you're looking for, the shape you're looking for. I'm starting to like that a lot. And then the other tip I'm going to give you is they say, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds with the UV lamp. I'm going to set this in my windowsill and I'm going to let this spend the day in the sun. I'm in no rush. I'm not taking this fishing tomorrow. So for me to put this in my windowsill and let it cure, it works great. So yeah, so I tell you, it was a tough decision trying to decide what fly I wanted to tie for this video, because I feel so blessed and honored to get to 300 subscribers. I'm having a total blast. You know. All right, so there it is, the Zonker Baitfish in the color purple. I don't think I can ever get used to saying that. It's black and purple. Thank you so much for helping me reach 300. Don't forget to leave a comment and join the contest. You might be the lucky winner. I sent the last one to Portland, Oregon. I'll send it anywhere. Thank you for having a cocktail with me. Someday we're going to talk about rum one day. That video will eventually happen. And I promise that when I do put this guy under some warm water, he will straighten out and look just like this one. And this in the water looks awesome. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and good luck catching.